Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Chakras and Cusswords podcast. My name is Katherine, and I am your host. And today we are going to talk about the upcoming astrology dates that are happening for the month of June 2024. And if you are new here, welcome. I'm glad you are here. If you aren't new here, you know I always do a reflection of the previous month. So for those who are interested, I am recording on May 28th, 7:14 a.m. and it is a Tuesday. I decided why not? Let's get this recording going. I know it is a little bit late because I do usually release on Mondays, but I had to take a break, right? We all have to take a break. That's kind of like the way life is. That's how the cookie sometimes crumbles. So let's get into some of the reflection days for a little bit of April and then also for the month of May. And this is a pretty fast reflection. So we do definitely expect to be going in a faster rhythm for the reflection. And remember, I do not concentrate on too much of the actual date and the actual transit, but more of the energy that was kind of going around and some of the current topics that were going around, I guess you could say, on these internet streets, right? And please remember to follow the YouTube channel, Chakras and Cusswords podcast YouTube, and also my TikTok. If you want very current content, I'm always posting on TikTok. Most of my long form videos, up to 10 minutes long, are on TikTok, but all the guided meditations, all the astrology stuff is always on the YouTube channel. But I do sometimes try to share out to the YouTube channel as well on some of the celebrity and current topics. So on April 30th, we had a big transit that occurred. We had Mars entering Aries, and Mars is known as that energy of the red planet. It is known as the angry planet, the assertive planet. It brings a lot of spark and enthusiasm as a whole when we see Mars in the collective. And then it being aligned with Aries, that brings a lot of energy that's really centered around the identity and also a little spunk, right? So it was kind of like a very awakening energy. And we have to remember that Mars is the ruler of Aries. So it does have that assertiveness that really stands bold, and it does have that assertiveness that really kind of kicks things into drive. So during this time, we started to have this full on, I guess you could call it rap beef with a lot of the hip hop legends, or soon to be legends, because they aren't really legends yet, right? They're still working their way up. But during this time, we had Kendrick Lamar drop Euphoria. And Euphoria is basically a diss track that went in rebuttal to Drake's diss tracks. And it's interesting because this whole rap beef, for those who are into hip hop and they like rap, Kendrick Lamar, Drake, and J. Cole have all had, I guess you could say, a little bit of rap beef. They've had some issues. They've been kind of fighting. The guys are fighting. They've definitely had, this whole where it's been acknowledged they haven't liked each other. They've been sending a lot of subliminal messages, especially for like the last decade when we look at Drake and Kendrick Lamar. But this time it's kind of a little bit more was like in your face. And a lot of the reasons why is because on March of 2022, that track Like That by Metro Boomin and also Future, where Kendrick Lamar did a verse, was released. And it was like a 30-second verse, but it addressed a lot of the issues that he had with Drake and also with J. Cole, stating that they were the top three, and Kendrick Lamar felt like he is the top rapper. Drake is not. J. Cole is not. So there is no top 3. There's just me. And that's like one of the biggest lines that a lot of people really enjoyed from this diss track that was released back in March. Then on 4/5, J. Cole wrote a 7-minute drill. It was called the 7-minute drill, and it was okay. And I do enjoy rap. I do enjoy hip hop. I do enjoy the lyricism that goes behind the hip hop, that goes behind the rap. I do enjoy, everybody knows Tupac is like one of my favorites. Kendrick Lamar is definitely up there, and they are both Geminis. So it gets interesting. It gets very interesting when we look at the dynamics of lyricism. And we are currently in Gemini season. So this is an amazing season for Kendrick Lamar to really push his music out, especially when there's so much energy kind of going this way. So J. Cole releases his 7-minute drill. And then on 4/12, J. Cole deletes 7-minute drill. There's some controversy behind it. A lot of people believe that J. Cole addressed some of the LGBTQ community because he brought up Kendrick's uncle who has transitioned. And a lot of people felt like he shouldn't have brought that up. Then some people felt that he released it just because he didn't want to be involved in this drama. So then after J. Cole apologizes and deletes 7-minute drill, Drake then releases on 4/19 Push-Ups, and also on 4/19 he releases 2 songs, and then he releases Tailor Made Freestyle. Then Kendrick Lamar releases Euphoria, and Euphoria automatically was a hit. It went off. Kendrick's talked about, does Drake have like lost children? A lot of people believe that he has this lost child. It just turned into this whole detective case. In all honesty, it just turned into this big mayhem of stuff. Where people were like, oh my gosh, Kendrick is crazy, and he's releasing all these tracks. Right around this time on May 2nd, we have Pluto goes retrograde in Aquarius, just in case you lost track of the astrology, because the astrology was high energy, and especially as we see it for that area of spontaneous energy. So then we have Pluto goes retrograde in Aquarius. And I think this really actually emphasized this hip hop battle. And I know people are like, that's crazy, but we have to remember that Pluto is the ruler of Scorpio. Drake is a Scorpio. And also we have to remember that with a retrograde, you always take a couple steps back, especially we have it in the energy of Aquarius. So this energy in aligned with Drake, and I don't have his chart right now. I will be doing a full reading. I've got a lot of requests for full readings of certain celebrities, but right now we know that his zodiac is a Pluto based zodiac. He is a Scorpio, so that's his sun element. So then we have it going retrograde in Aquarius, where the collective sees him. And we also have to look at the conjunctions that are really taking place around the area of his partnerships and also the area around his money houses. So then we see this taking a step back, where the collective is kind of taking a step back from him. And then it just is a complete one track after another. So then Kendrick Lamar releases Euphoria. So then after that, on 5/3, right after the Pluto retrograde begins, he then releases 6/16 in LA, which was another good track. A lot of hard shots going Drake's way. Then on 5/3, Drake releases Family Matters, and he went after Kendrick Lamar's family. He basically said that they had a lot of areas of, I guess you could say, possibilities of cheating, possibilities of domestic violence. Just there was a lot of possibilities of all kinds of speculation Drake addressed, which Kendrick Lamar has addressed and said that they are not true. Then on 5/3, Drake did a thing for IG only. And then on 5/3, Kendrick Lamar releases Meet the Grams. And then when he releases Meet the Grams, he does this whole thing where basically he calls Drake a pedophile. And there's been a lot of speculation about Drake for years, especially with the whole Billie Eilish, him very excited that she was turning 18, him seen with Lotto's sister, who is basically a newly adult at the age of 18. Also him with Billy, is it Millie? Billy, the Stranger Things girls. And I did a video on that. It's on the YouTube channel about their relationship, just how he had a friendship with her at a very young age. At what point is it appropriate and what point is it not appropriate? So even though he is a celebrity and so is she a celebrity, and maybe they do have some type of mentorship, a lot of people have always felt that there's been a lot of creeper vibes about Drake. And this has been talked about for a while. So I'm not just saying something that is new. For those who follow rap and follow hip hop, there's always, in celebrity news and commentary, you always know that there's been this little hidden window that Drake is just giving off these creepy vibes. It might be the Scorpio in him. It might be. Scorpios, it's very interesting that, and I'm not saying all Scorpios, because trust me, there's a lot of Scorpios who I absolutely love. Love, love, love. But let's face it, Scorpios do have that area where it does feel a little bit mysterious, and it feels a little bit dark. It feels a little bit hidden. And it's not necessarily saying that all things are hidden, but maybe with Scorpios, we tend to feel it just a little bit better, a little bit stronger than we would with, let's say, a Virgo, let's say a Gemini, let's say a Cancer. A Scorpio, we always feel like a Scorpio is kind of, hiding a little bit something from us. But, who knows? Maybe he's not hiding anything. So it's interesting that him and P. Diddy, Puffy, Sean Combs are both Scorpios. And we're going to get into that because I'm definitely going to read Sean Combs. I'm actually thinking about that's going to be the next celebrity chart that I read. Make sure you check out the Justin Bieber one that I just posted. But I'm definitely thinking it's going to be Sean Combs. A lot of people want me to read Stevie Nicks, which I will, but in all honesty, she's not the top of my list. So let's get into the area of on May 3rd. So this whole energy of Drake's Family Matters, Drake's parody, Kendrick Lamar, and then Kendrick Lamar releases, Drake rebuttals him, and then Kendrick Lamar releases Not Like Us. And he literally just killed it. And then Not Like Us is a huge hit. Everybody's listening to it. I just posted a video about it because people are saying that Drake did not write Family Mob Ties. So Drake still, what is it, May 28th? Drake still has not been able to catch a break. Kendrick Lamar's Not Like Us has done amazing on the billboards. And then Kendrick Lamar's very smart. And this is the Gemini in him. You know what he did is he removed the copyright issues he removed the copyright so content creators can play that track without getting dinged and still receive revenue. So people are literally playing this song nonstop. Number one, it's not getting removed. Number two, they're not getting dinged. And number three, it allows them to bring commentary towards this whole disc, this whole energy of the disc. And I really think that has to do with the analytics behind the Gemini mind and that area of Geminis, and I'm not saying, Drake isn't intelligent, but I'm just saying that Geminis know how to move forward in certain areas that are high in energy processes. So then on May 3rd, we have Mars in Aries sextiles Pluto in Aquarius. And that energy is, we're seeing it, that spontaneous area. I'm going to be the first one to beat you, the collective. Pluto's in retrograde and it's changing. Then we also have Jessica Biel is standing by her Vira Met Gala beauty hack. And I just want to say that the way that this whole Met Gala thing has really kind of turned around, it's just very disgusting how we as a culture have lost the identity of what really matters. So after the 42-year-old star revealed that she soaked in 20 pounds of Epsom salt the night before the star-studded event, she defended this technique, and it was basically to make herself thinner. She did it on The View, but we have to remember that this was to make herself look thinner. I mean, I understand 20 pounds of salt. And when we are using like spiritual practices, because this in all honesty she doesn't see it as a spiritual practice, but this is a detoxing element. We also have to remember that this area of magnesium entering the body, yes, it could be done for health benefits, but 20 pounds, that's very drastic. And I do soak in magnesium and I do soak in salts, but 20 pounds, that sounds outrageous. And the unhealthy standards that we have put on us as a collective and that we have put on other women just makes us, in all honesty, not move forward as a spiritual process and as a collective, especially when it comes to women. So she says it's amazing, and it gives you the magnesium inside your body, and she slept well, which I definitely think 20 pounds, she must have been knocked out. But in all honesty, she said she felt good, she felt calm. It's the kind of adrenaline kind of night that is very exciting. So for her to do that, it really helped her. It also helped her probably shrink down in size as well, because I'm sure she was shitting nonstop. But anyways, and then we have to remember that with the Met Gala, they got a lot of controversy this year. A creator, I don't even remember her name, and this energy started to take place right around May 13th. It was because this creator on TikTok, okay, so they did a video of her and she said, like, let him eat cake, and that is a reference of Antoinette, and what is it, that Antoinette lady from the French Revolution. And basically when everybody in her village and in her township was so poor and they were fighting over bread, she said this very, just let them eat cake. Who cares? And a lot of people don't even believe that Marie Antoinette even said that. So dozens of TikTok celebrities have been blocked because of the Met Gala. And they feel like if you went to the Met Gala, you should be addressing certain things like what is going on in Palestine, and that there is a huge genocide occurring, and the economy is going completely to shit. A lot of people can't afford what these celebrities are pushing, so they started blocking celebrities. Then also on May 15th, we had Mercury enters Taurus. May 7th, and then May 16th, we have Pallas retrograde enters Scorpio. And then we have the Jen and Ben. Are they breaking up? So we have to remember with Jen and Ben, they're both, when we look at this energy as a whole, and Pallas is really that energy of a small energetic alignment. But then also we have Mercury enters Taurus, which is the opposing sign of the Scorpio. And both Ben and Jen have a Scorpio moon, and then they also are Leo suns. So we saw a lot of energy their way about if they should be breaking up. if they are breaking up, because there's all this speculation. Is Jen wearing her ring? Are they happy? What is going on with these two? Huge speculation about if they are headed for Divorceville. And this would be like Jennifer Lopez's 4th or 5th marriage. I can't even keep track. But anyways, so basically, a lot of people are speculating, but people have seen them together. It's just been a bad moment for the fixed signs. When we look at the fixed signs as a whole, especially after Pluto has entered Aquarius, and the fixed signs who are not aligned in their karmic energy, we have Jennifer Lopez, we have Sean Combs, and we have Drake, who are all making the news. These guys are all fixed signs. I mean, don't tell me astrology isn't real. We see those karmic ties really opening up, and we see that energy really being centered around what's next. If you haven't fulfilled, if you haven't cleared, if you haven't set in certain ways, and you've been just very dominant in evil energy, it's going to show up. And Kat Williams addressed this. And remember, we all addressed this in 2024. We have the year of 8. There's very strong karmic ties in the year of 8. It is a Saturn energy. So also we have Mercury in Taurus squares Pluto in Aquarius on May 17th. So this is when the Sean Diddy Combs is seen physically assaulting Cassie Ventura in a 2016 surveillance video that was obtained by CNN. And it is believed that the way that this video became obtained was by the house raid, by the feds. So it is believed that the feds found this tape, and they haven't actually had any charges been placed on Sean Combs because of the statute of limitations. But I think it was a big dose of shut the fuck up to Sean Combs and shut the fuck up to his son, Justin Combs, who decided to write like a song basically saying how they're innocent, F 50 cents, F all these allegations, I'm the Combs, I'm Sean Combs' son, and, just, it was a stupid song. And I think the feds gave that tape because they wanted him to know, we got a lot of stuff from your house and it don't look good. And even though the statute of limitations may have expired, we know exactly who you are, and we're going to continue to know who you are. And I think also the collective needed to see that, because a lot of people are still standing by him, and I think it's bullshit. I mean, I've always thought Diddy was a creeper. I know I've talked about this since 2021 on this podcast, especially with the current events. When I'm looking at current events of celebrities, he too is a Scorpio. I've read Diddy's chart when I briefly read Diddy's chart when I did the Tupac and Biggie chart breakdown. But I definitely feel that a lot of these allegations about Diddy are true. I do think he had something to do in Tupac's murder. I do think he had something to do with Biggie's murder. It was almost like he used Biggie as a sacrificial element or lamb or some type of energy to move forward in receiving revenue and also receiving the energy of closing that whole beef with Tupac and West Side, Suge Knight. And he just, because Biggie didn't, I'm gonna do it. I know so many people want me to do a Diddy breakdown, and I am, but it just is going to take me a lot of time that I haven't had time to devote to it. But I am going to do a Diddy breakdown for you guys. So I do definitely think that there's multiple things about Diddy that we can align him with energetically and also reality based. So even though there's a lot of speculation about when his demise will really fully come, They're going to have to catch something current, and I'm going to look at his chart and some of the upcoming transits, but they're going to have to catch something current. I mean, the year that he just had, I can't remember when I posted about him being in his opposing year, but I do think that we're going to see something big if he doesn't flee. I think there's a possibility he might do a Russell Simmons. That's all I have to say. So then also right around this time, a Mercury in Taurus squares Pluto in Aquarius. We have AOC, Marjorie Taylor, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and they got into this heated debate. Okay, so the reps AOC, Marjorie Taylor Greene, had a heated exchange Thursday evening during what was supposed to be the contempt hearing for the Attorney General, Merrick Garland. The House Oversight the Committee had originally been convened to hold the Attorney General in contempt for refusing to comply with a subpoena that was handed over with audio recording of President Biden's interview to a special counsel. So this hearing quickly lost control. And it's funny because we have Mercury squares Pluto in Aquarius. Of course it's going to lose control. Why wouldn't it? You know, we have some energy that is really moving forward. And you know what's interesting is after I looked into this a little bit stronger, of this energy of the fighting, the energy of the women arguing. So what basically happened was Greene took shots at her colleague, Jasmine Crockett, who's out of Texas, and she's African American, and she basically said, like, do you know what you're here for? I think your fake eyelashes are messing up with your reading. And then AOC was like, excuse me? And she's like, baby girl. She's like, don't you start. No shit. And then Jasmine Crockett came back and she called her I think it was like big body blonde burnt bitch. I can't even remember. It was hilarious, but she just totally went for the jugular, and I absolutely loved it. Okay, so let's get into the area of astrology. Why was this mayhem centered around the cosmos? So right around this time, we have Mercury in Taurus squares Pluto in Aquarius. Interesting enough, AOC is a Libra. So we have that energy of the Taurus. And, you know, the ruler of Venus also rules Libra. So I thought that was kind of interesting, you know. We also have that energy of Mercury. And we have to remember Mercury is that energy of the Gemini and the Virgo. And guess who is a Gemini? Marjorie Taylor Greene is a Gemini. And then we have it's squaring with Pluto in Aquarius. Pluto rules not only that energy of the Scorpio and then Mars, but also it does have a lot of strong energetic alignments with the energy of the Aries as well as Mars, right? So Mars rules both of the Scorpios. It rules Aries and it rules the Scorpio in some elements, and then also Pluto, because Pluto wasn't discovered until after Aries was first traditionally pulled up from the sky, and then they said, oh, okay, well, now we're going to have Pluto rule Scorpio. But, you know, so there is some energetic alignment where we could see that individuality, but also that area of the dual rulers, as we have the Libra with the Venus, and we have Pluto, and then we have Scorpio, and then we have Aries and Mars. So I thought that was a little interesting. And also I would have to look at their full birth charts. But Jasmine is a Aries. And it makes sense for Aries to come back as such a spitfire and to say something that was just like, bam. And also we have to remember this Mercury in Taurus squares Pluto in Aquarius. This is making it where the collective is having a hard time communicating. It's also making where a lot of fixed energy, and even though none of them are fixed energy, we have the Libra, who is a cardinal sign. So I'm not surprised AOC was the first one to say something because she is a Libra. And then also we have Jasmine, who is a Aries, and that's the cardinal sign of the cardinal signs. And then we also have the Gemini, Mrs. Green, who is a mutable sign. So it was definitely like Spitfire, even though Green started it. She was like the first one to say something about the eyelashes thing. She couldn't keep up with the cardinal signs. It was undeniable. She could not keep up. She just had to bow down gracefully because 2 cardinal signs together, oh honey, that's a lot of energy you do not even want to mess with. So then around May 20th, we had Sun enters Gemini, and it kind of felt like a little fresh break from a lot of the media, a lot of the stuff that's been going on. I'll be honest, I haven't really been paying too much attention of that. That was like the last big story that I was listening to. Then yesterday, there's a video floating around of Northwest playing Lion King, Simba, and she was playing it at the Hollywood Bowl. And we have to remember that Lion King's a big Broadway performance. It's very big. It's very, it's not just a little town. It's just not a little town performance. It's like a big deal, right? But a lot of people kind of went after Northwest because of a few reasons. And it's really not North's fault. It's her parents' fault. But for a few reasons, is they said she wasn't prepared. Automatically, we know she was not prepared at all. If you check the videos out on my YouTube and TikTok, she was not prepared. It barely looked like she practiced the song. And it felt very nepotism, like Kim Kardashian, Kanye West, they just want her out there. For why? Who freaking knows? But it was horrible because there were kids who probably deserved that part way better than Northwest, right? So it just screamed a lot of nepotism. It screamed a lot of, in all honesty, she didn't even look fully prepared for it. The singing skills were horrible. It was just horrible. So on a not so happy note, there's been a lot going on with the Palestinian state and also with Gaza and people being bombed in Rafah. And it's just not good. So there was new Israel air attacks, were displaced Palestinians in Rafah, which was supposed to be a sanctuary for them, for the fugitives to go. And it believes to killed, I believe we have 21, but a lot of people believe that more people have died. And we have to remember, these are the women and the children. And many have been wounded, like many. So I feel like, I try not to get I try not to talk about too many things that upset me here on this podcast because I want this podcast to be an outlet. But it's very upsetting to know that this war is just continuing, and it's not even a war. It's just a straight completely. It's just horrible. I mean, in all honesty, I'm like lost for words because Israel, Gaza's, updates are just every day. Just the toll exceeds. I think it's now at 36,000 people is the continued death count. And we have to remember that a lot of this is innocent children. And it's just very upsetting. I mean, and I'm trying not to focus too much on it because I don't want to, I don't know. I mean, I want to stay optimistic because I do feel like we need some truth, we definitely need some reality, but also to have your mind always going back on stuff that we can't control and we can control it. Like, so definitely donate. I put a link on my Instagram to donate to the children, but it's just been horrible. And a lot of people, it's like no justice in this world. So days after the deadly strikes on Rafah, killing 50 Palestinians and injured at least 249, at the time, a father of 5 who lost his wife told the news channel ABC that they fled in the south of Gaza before heading to Rafah for safety. I hope I'm pronouncing it right, Rafah for safety. One of my disabled sons had his leg amputated and my wife was killed. And he said, where is the justice? I'm sorry. I just believe that this, in all honesty, is one of the main reasons why people, I don't even know if I could vote this year. And I vote, do I think it makes a huge change? I don't know. But in all honesty, I don't feel like I can vote for anybody who, it's very upsetting that my tax dollars are going to this war, right? To this demolishing, this genocide, basically, is what's happening. And he says, I hold America and Israel responsible. We are innocent. And I agree with him. They are innocent. The crime that took place of terrorism does not equal out to what is occurring. This is unrational. This is, like I said, when this first happened, we're going to see if this is really for land, if this is for taking over and getting rid of the population, or if this is truly for getting the remaining hostages, right? Because people have been asking for a ceasefire for who knows how long. And it's pretty concurrent that they don't want to do an immediate ceasefire, at all. And I'm going to read his story. So after sunset, my wife and I were sitting here outside the shelter with our neighbors, and my disabled son was feeding his other disabled brother, who is older than him. Even the idea of eating was still here, he said. He said, describing the aftermath of the deadly Rafah strike. There was a very intense explosion. My wife declared once that the shrapnel entered her chest and killed her. I went to my sons and I found one of them had an amputated foot as a sharp metal object entered the top from another side. Then there was a full massacre was here, is basically what he said. Very sad. Very young children wounded, like I said. So if you can donate, hopefully they will do a ceasefire. I don't know. I was talking to people and, we were just kind of talking about it, and a lot of people feel like they're not going to, but I hope they do, because how is it going to end? I don't know. So let's take a couple of breaths, shake off some of the energy that might be very intense. And we're going to get into the energy of June. And I will say, on a lighter note, this is an amazing time to spend time with your family, to spend time out in nature, to spend time around the sun, to spend time with families, to spend time with people you love, to spend time with the people who matter to you, and have reflection of how beautifully and entitled and privileged we are, how we aren't in this country of war and bombing that we are in the US, and that we, or countries that don't have an active war, and be present in the state of mind that we should be grateful every day that we wake up without having to deal and without having to see death daily and death of our loved ones daily. So we are very fortunate. So let's get into the astrology of June. So June 2nd, we have Jupiter in Gemini trined Pluto in Aquarius. And we also have Mercury in Taurus, sextiles Neptune in Pisces. I just want to say, with the June energy as a whole, when I see that Jupiter in Gemini trines Pluto in Aquarius, I feel like maybe there's going to be some good talks about something that's going to change the collective. Maybe there's going to be a bliss of communication that's going to come our way, that's going to allow us to feel a little bit more aspect towards the future, a little bit brighter, a little bit more centered around that. Also, we have June 2nd, Mercury in Taurus, sextiles Neptune. This is an area where you are going to really allow the messages, the area of love, of conditions, of your practice to shine through in the area of the one of the spiritual self, especially as we have Neptune and Pisces. Everything's going to feel a little bit dreamy. It's going to feel a little bit heavenly, angel-like, with Mercury and Taurus, allowing us to create centers of intentions and manifestations that really feel like a different realm. It really feels a little bit more spiritual in our area of the materials, our areas of gains. And it's a powerful message. It's a powerful astrological movement. Also, June 3rd, we have Mercury enters Gemini. This is beautiful for the Gemini placements. This is beautiful for the mutable signs. Communication is going to come a little bit easier. It's going to come a little bit more centered around expressing. So definitely a time to work on the throat chakra. If the throat chakra has been not fully opened, or maybe you feel like the throat chakra needs a little bit more work, definitely take that centered where you can do some clearing of the throat chakra. Also, it's a good day to socialize. But remember, when we are looking at the throat chakra, we want to speak words of good intentions, not only for ourselves, but also for other individuals. So communication during this period is going to be maybe on the forefront for a lot of us. But also we have to remember to speak wisely. Our words are very powerful. Our words are spells. A lot of people hate to see that acknowledgement, but be careful how you speak. Be careful what you say. You have to allow the mind and the verbal words to have a concise area where we see that area of reality, and also the mystic, also the area of movement, of sound energy, play forward. So make sure you aren't speaking bad about people, but you are using that throat chakra for the energy of the wise. Also, during this time, we have Mercury in Gemini trines Pluto in Aquarius. So it is definitely a time that we might feel like we want to argue. We might feel like we want to be right. We might feel like we don't understand why the collective doesn't listen to us. We don't understand why the collective doesn't hear us. We don't really understand. But guess what? We're going to continue to share this movement. We're going to continue to share our energy forward. So definitely take that in mind, especially how you are speaking. And I would say June 4th is definitely right around the peak of a high energy day because we have Mercury in Gemini conjunct Jupiter in Gemini, the Sun in Gemini conjuncts Venus in Gemini. So this is very kind of like that whole energy where everything feels very negotiable. It also makes us feel very enlightened, and it also allows us to use our area of the throat chakra and also the heart chakra in centers of relationships and expansion of the self. So take that in mind. Then we are going to want to really be centered on our areas of not only areas of communication with ourselves, but the area of communication with the interpersonal, that energy of intentions, of new starts, new cycles, that energy of why we are so wise, and allowing ourselves to own it, allowing ourselves to own our talents, allowing ourselves to own our intentions, our beautiful personal affirmations, and allowing ourselves to develop time to our craft as we have the new moon in Gemini happening on June 6th. The new moon in Gemini, I will be 100% honest, this is a beautiful time for you to plan. Yes, you can socialize. Yes, you could get out there and do your witchy things. You could go out there, do your moon collective. You could go out there, do your spiritual retreats. You could go out there, do some energy work. You could do that energy of movement. But this is also a time that you are going to want to plan your next move. You are also going to plan and research. Use that analytic process of the energy of Mercury, the energy of the messenger, the energy of the duality that the Gemini holds. We have to remember that Gemini is a big thinker. A new moon means new movements, new strategies, new opportunity, new cycle, starting over, letting go, but also creating a blissful area where you are in the center of planning. That could be planning a trip. That could be planning research. This might actually be a good time for me to work on my puffy P. Diddy little breakdown. I'm hoping I'm going to be able to get everything out about the planet Pluto, everything about the planet Pluto podcast, and then I can start to work on the Diddy. I want to definitely, get the astrology series going. So for those who like astrology, want to learn how to read their birth chart, want to learn how to read others' birth chart, tune into the astrology series. I've gone into the history of astrology. I've gone into the introduction of astrology. We're covering the planets, and then we are going to move on to the zodiacs. And then from the zodiacs, we are going to move on to the houses. Then from the houses, we are going to move on to the energy of the degrees. So, and how you can read a birth chart, fully read a birth chart and understand the energetic alignment of the individuals that you are reading for, and also for the interpersonal energy of your own birth chart. Then on June 8th, we have Venus in Gemini, square Saturn in a Pisces. So if you haven't been feeling productive, you're probably going to want to sit this day out, right? Because this day is the day you're going to want to take a nap. So that's what I'm saying. You're going to want to do all this shit for the new moon. You're going to want to get centered the new moon. You're going to want to strategize the new moon. You're going to want to be inspired the new moon. Because the Venus, Gemini square and Saturn and Pisces is just feeling like a rest day. It's a high energy day for multiple reasons, but that Saturn energy is probably going to be the day that you want to meditate. You're not going to want to work on projects. You're just going to want to be centered on moving towards resting, moving towards the area of the relationships. Maybe the relationships are kind of suffering at this time. Maybe there's some high dynamic. Maybe there's some high energy. Maybe there's some energy where you're feeling like you're being, I hate this word, but I'm going to use it, micromanaged, or you're feeling like there's a control. And that could be with interpersonal love relationships, and this could also be with business relationships. So when we look at the relationships of the Venus in Gemini square Saturn in Pisces and how it's affecting you through that high energy of the spiritual matter, but also the high energy of the conscious state, you're going to want to take a break, babe. You're just going to want to. You're just going to want to. I know I want to, just looking at this day. And what's also interesting about this day is this day we also have Mars enters Taurus. So it is definitely a high energy day. Mars entering Taurus is going to feel very fixed. It's going to feel very intense. It's going to feel very like it's going to acknowledge our energy of not giving up, but it's also going to feel a little bit stubborn, where maybe you might have to deal with somebody who's like stubborn in their ways, or especially as we have that Saturn energy tied in. Oh gosh. I mean, I just feel tired looking at this day. Shit. But it's definitely going to feel like the day where maybe you give yourself that glimpse of hope, right? You give yourself that energy of hope where you say, okay, whew, I got this. Get up. I got this. You could do this. You could do this. You know, maybe use it as a rest day. Let that Mars in Taurus fix element, that sign of not giving up, of feeling strong in your desires, feel slow and steady to keep going, kind of sit with you, allow it to move with you, allow it to embrace, but don't feel like, oh gosh, I gotta go. Because then on June 9th, honey, June 9th, we have Sun in Gemini squares Saturn in Pisces. In all honesty, another day you're going to want to leave for rest. Another day that's not going to be... It's probably going to be some dynamics with energy of communication. Also, I wouldn't be surprised if something happens in the religious world, the spiritual world, where there's a lot of communication, maybe a little bit of a controversy. We'll have to look at that, especially with these 2 days happening so aligned together and it affecting the energy of the spiritual presence of the Pisces, of that Jesus walker. You know, it's so funny when I look at the past videos that I made. It's like certain times, Christmas, everybody was watching my video when I talked about how I thought Jesus was a Pisces, is he definitely not a Capricorn. You know, high moment that Jesus might be a Pisces. I gotta drink some water, but and then now it's happening again. Just people, I don't know, we might be looking up Jesus again, Jesus zodiac, because now people are, okay, what sign is Jesus? Well, I'm thinking he's either a Pisces or an Aries, but definitely feeling that Pisces vibe. June 11th, we have Mars in Taurus squares Pluto. This day, I feel like there's going to be something around AI happening. There's going to be something around the innovation of work, also the innovation of technology. It's going to feel a little bit difficult. Maybe it's going to be rebellious, but I definitely see some energy that maybe some of us weren't planning for. And it's going to let us know that there's new movement coming around everywhere. There's new movement really centered in the place of moving forward. But we're probably going to see that dynamic again, you know, more controversy about AI, more controversy about innovation, tradition. Gosh. Do we grow? Do we grow or do we stay quiet? Do we grow or do we just stay traditional? There's definitely things that I love traditional. Oh, 100%. I do love some elements of the traditions, but there is a high energy frequency, especially with Pluto in Aquarius, that pulling that is going to make us a little bit more smarter, wiser, intellectual. It's going to make us the collective. It's going to make them a little bit more rebellious. So it is definitely a time to grow. You know what's interesting is I heard babies who are born in this year and have the transit of Pluto in Aquarius, they believe are going to be smarter. They're going to be smarter than the babies of the past. I'm like looking at my nephews, my niece and my nephew's birth chart. I'm like, do they have Pluto in Aquarius? I got some smart ass niece and nephews. But yeah. So they believe that these babies are going to be a little bit more instinctive. They're going to be a little bit more centered around innovation, technology. They're going to have that area of the Aquarius. They're going to have that area of that fixed energy where they are able to move and change and adapt a little bit stronger than the generations before them. Also, June 16th, we have Venus enters Cancer. And this is really centered around summer solstice, that energy of moving forward, moving into the summer, moving into the love as we prepare for summer solstice, but it is moving towards the energy of having the romance. Venus in Cancer feels fucking romantic. It just, whenever Venus is in a water sign, it's very interesting because you would think that Venus would rule a water sign. I mean, when I think of, Venus, you would think it would, but it doesn't, right? It's not a lover of the water signs, but Venus in the water signs just feels romantic. It just feels beautiful. It just feels playful. It just feels, just very sensual. It just feels very like that coconut oil all on you, just feeling beautiful, just feeling aligned in the cosmos, in the water, in the ocean. Venus enters Cancer just feels like there's a new season coming our way and it's going to be beautiful, right? It's going to be lovely. Then on June 17th, we have Mercury enters Cancer. So this is definitely a time that we're going to focus on the imagination of the moonlight, because we have to remember Cancer rules the moon, or the moon rules Cancer, I would say. And then also that energy of the mystic. Cancer is very mystic. It's very romantic. It's the mother sign. It's the feminine sign. So being aligned in our feminine goddess, being aligned in that energy where we speak the feminine, where we speak that areas of peace, we speak that area of protecting each other, of moving forward. It is that energy that feels very dreamy. It feels very mystical, magical, beautiful. It feels like dancing in like white petaled roses all over you, right? Definitely you want to bring in the flowers. You want to bring in the sanctuary into the home and also into the relationships. You also want to speak what you feel, what you dream, where it is that you see, not just the energy of your relationships, but where it is that you see that movement. It's very harmonious. It has a harmony to it. It has that energy that moves forward. Then we have Vesta enters Leo, which is that little energy that kind of lets us get a little bit more courageous, get a little bit more confident, and lets us get a little bit more centered in our area of interpersonal. Then we have June 20th, Sun enters Cancer, summer solstice. Summer solstice with a year of 8. Summer solstice for the year of 8. I'm going to say, in all honesty, allow us to embrace the magic. Also allow us to use the magic towards energy of the emotions, energy of transparency, and also energy of comfort, of the beauty of the Cancer season, of the beauty of the mystic, of the beauty of the modern mystic, and see how you can create that area of where it is not looking at it at the area of karmic ties, not looking at the area of areas of moving forward. We have to remember karma is karma. That's why we be the best version of us that we could possibly be every day. And that means not just how we succeed in life, of being the best version of us each day, but how we succeed in our relationships, of how we treat people. it's not a time that we're going to want to be defensive. It's not a time that we're going to want to be rude. It's going to be that time that we want to treat people like we want our children treated, not just ourselves. Because I think sometimes when we think of the areas of the feminine will do so much, right? They will burn themselves out. They will do so much. They will do all these things because they want to please, make it work for other people. But how we allow our children to grow, right? How we allow our household to grow, how we allow this movement to feel beautiful, to feel strong, structured, but also magical and mystical for lifetimes. It's funny because when you think of it, of the beauty of the modern mystic and creating this energy of the goddess space, of the Cancer, the Virgin, the purity, the summer solstice, of entering this area of beauty, we have to allow ourselves to take in the beauty and to own it and feel aligned with it, of the summer, of the creation, and of the emotional base that comes with the magic, that comes with the mystic. That's why I felt so bad for my friend the other day. I'm going to share this story with you guys. And I hope this podcast isn't too long. So many of you guys know that I was on Good Day Sacramento. I think it was back in 2021. And I was, talking about the podcast. It was like right after the podcast came out. I was talking about the podcast. I was at a local spiritual shop. It was my friend Jamie's shop. Check her out. Her name's White Willow. She's located in Tracy, California. She does Reiki. She does energy healing, and she's really much centered on the spiritual practice for the collective. They have clothing, they have crystals, they have all the woo and the woo. So if you love the woo, you got to check her out, right? And I have a feeling if you're listening to this podcast, you love the woo, honey, okay? You wouldn't be here if you weren't a woo girl. So somebody over this past weekend on her doorstep, and I don't know if it was paint or if it was chalk, they wrote witchcraft, and they pointed to the door, and she wrote the most beautiful response. She basically said, we are a spiritual shop. We don't practice witchcraft, but we don't condemn anybody who does. I mean, in all honesty, when we talk about witchcraft, the fucking title witch just, it's like you want to embrace it. You want to say witch, because people have put so much shame onto that word, witch. That's why I say, healing your witch's wound is very powerful. They put so much energy to one word. And when we think about words and we think about the area of the words and how powerful these words are, I could go around and say, I'm a witch. She could go around and say she's a witch because she's doing something that others don't agree with. And that could be centered about religious views. That could be centered around traditions. That could be centered around logic. That could be centered around having two areas of worship. Not necessarily. Most people who are centered around the arts of what may seem magical and mystical, for the most part, aren't going around and creating energy that isn't aligned. When we are thinking about the true energetic space of energy, the true energetic space of the spiritualism of law of attraction, of the universe, of the cosmos, you do no harm. And regardless of what it means, you do no harm, right? And I remember when I saw her thing, I was thinking, girl, you're better than me. Because my ass would probably freaking hex them right then and there. I would say, to who? To who wrote this? You are going down in a fiery flame. I would have got all woohoo. I would have got, because I told you guys, I could get a little revengeful. I could get a little spiteful. I don't know who wrote this on my doorstep. Burn. But that's not the true aspect of spiritualism. That's not the true aspect of enlightenment. And with that word witch, a lot of people believe that that's what witches did, was anytime somebody did something they didn't like, they created a spell, they put their name in the freezer, they, created some areas of another ritual to give them a nice little dose of shut the hell up. I mean, they got the voodoo doll out, or they did whatever it was. But in all honesty, I felt very, very bad for her, because it's like that area of doing something that is more of a modern mystic still feels to this day, still feels like it comes with a controversy. It comes with, spiritualism now has a controversy because she sells tarot. She sells, spiritual candles, ritual candles. She does, yoga now even is, comes from Hinduism, and it is seen as areas where people are creating this area where it's like so watered down that it's not coming with the true spiritual practices that it had. Yoga is very spiritual. It's very much centered off the spiritualism of Hindu practices, but we've watered it down as a population, where now we have women in $100 yoga pantses and a $200 mat teaching us yoga. That's traditionally not what yoga is used for. It's used for the respect of the deities, of the postures, of the poses, of opening yourself up to the elements of the universe, of opening yourself up to the energetic alignments, of becoming one with the cosmos, becoming one with the energy of certain areas of, if it's a deity, if it's an element, whatever it is. So understanding that we as a collective not only shouldn't put this energy of where one thing seems very like standard, like yoga, oh, it's for exercise. Not necessarily. Oh, spiritual shop, it's witchcraft. Not necessarily. Oh, she reads tarot, she must be intuitive. Not necessarily. Oh, she must be a witch. Not necessarily, right? So I just felt really bad for her. So make sure you go follow White Willow on my Instagram. Leave her a comment. Tell her Chakras and Cusswords podcast sent her. She's been very kind to me for many years, and she's a very good person. And it just feels horrible that people still have such a closed mind in today's society. So make sure to follow her. But definitely open up that area of allowing the modern mystic to continue her practices of traditions throughout the year, especially here in 8. Like it's funny because I think my daughter's like, wow, my mom is really woo-woo. Like, you want a crystal? She's like, no. No, she'll take a crystal. June 21st, we have full moon in Capricorn. Definitely an area of welcoming in the hard work. Use some gratitude. Allow yourself to allow yourself to fucking take a break. I mean, full moon in Capricorn, you put in a lot of hard work throughout the year. This might be a time that you do get some recognition that you didn't expect. So that is a good time to move with. Also on June 29th, we have Saturn goes retrograde in Pisces. And then for that energy date, it is a pretty high energy date right around the after of a full moon. After a full moon, the energy is brewing. It's brewing in a different format. We always see some of the worst things happen after a full moon. Just saying. We have Saturn goes retrograde in Pisces. Then we also have Mercury in Cancer sextiles Uranus in Taurus. So it's going to be an interesting one. Venus in Cancer sextiles Mars in Taurus. Very, very centered around certain energies that we will have to look at with an open mind, but also use time to be present in our own lives, because we have to live our life at a comfortable place and process. So I want to thank everybody for listening to this podcast. Please comment, like, share, and also subscribe to the podcast. If you can, leave me a little review. It helps me move up the podcast ladder. I'm going to get some more content out to you guys. And I want to thank you for being subscribed to this podcast. And I'm glad I got a chance to kind of do a full astrology date podcast. I hope it wasn't too long, but definitely thank you for the listen. Have a great day. Bye.